Hello, this is Marty, Business Analyst for the Visual Development Team. The following presentation will cover the other core business enhancements for version 9. We will review 5 new features, for example, audit history views by document, as well as 9 smaller updates, which include adding an Excel output to the Recalculate Standard Cost feature. We will begin in the estimating window with vendor price breaks on quotes. In the following example, I'm quoting purchase part 1 for 3 different quantities. The cost from setting will be part. Quote masters and engineering masters already include vendor breaks on requirements. In the example, the main part is supplied from purchasing and sold to a customer. The primary vendor's price breaks will be used and applied with any markup. Opening the item in part maintenance, the cost in the unit price can be noted. Next, we can use vendor supplying the part to see the preferred vendor, then review the current price breaks. Back in the estimating window, we can go to the quote line item prices. First, you will see the calculated price is based upon part cost and markups. Next, the current quoted unit price is the part unit price. Pressing the Recalculate tool will now supply the enhancement for vendor price breaks. Choose the Replace Quoted Unit Price to finish the example. The Go To Material Planning option has been added to the estimating line right-click menu. The planning window opens with the estimating line part selected. Next, the Configure Line Item Table dialogs have been updated to match the Browse Table dialogs. This included making tables resizable. In my example, I will remove dimensional inventory columns from the estimating window. Audit history views have been added to the system. When a document or ID is selected, the views can be selected from the Info menu. My example displays audit information for quote 3, possibly allowing the review for when a quote status has been modified or changed. Display details include user IDs, date of change, field that is being changed, and the old and new values. As another example, consider the changes to a customer order. Security on audit history views can be set up in component security for each application. For example, the user April is prevented from viewing audit history in the customer order entry. Note that the audit history menu remains grayed out in this case. We will review customer order entry for the next few enhancements, beginning with consolidated multi-site customer orders. In the following example, I will be working with a database that has 2 accounting entities and 3 sites. The consolidation enhancement will allow multiple sites in the same accounting entity to sell under one customer order. As an example, this order is for sites CS1 and CS2. I cannot select CS3 due to it being in another accounting entity. Note that planning will be based upon the line site ID. Next, let's look at shipping when using multi-site customer orders. When shipping, the site selected in the header will filter the lines from the order. Here you can see selecting Site 1, the line displays Line 1 for that site. Progress billing entry will display multiple sites similar to order entry setup. Price groups have been added as a context to Visual Pricebook. To display price groups, let's review a part ID at the tenant level. There are two price groups set up. Price Group 2 has been added to the part and can be displayed in Site 2, but not modified. In the price book, context now includes price groups. When selecting Price Group 2, you can notice the price breaks. In order entry, the unit price will reflect the price group quantity price break from the visual price book. Note the price note as well as the following comparison. Next, preference maintenance has been updated with multiple enhancements. First, you will notice that the tenant level has been added, which will work as a global setting. There are also two new display filters added, allowing for the selection of a specific section or for a specific entry. Here is an example of order entry filtering to the only entry that I have at the tenant level. The value is Y, which will display the view panel. Switching to the existing user ID April, she has the view panel off or set to no for the value. Since the value is different than the tenant setting, the value will display in blue. Also notice active status control has been added. Switching to the new user, Kyle, I have not added any preferences. Now in order entry, signed in as Kyle, you will notice the customer view panel is displaying. This is based on the tenant setting. Switching to April, the customer view panel does not display, but selecting the line, the user does see the line product cost and gross profit graph. Next, we can review setting a global preference. Starting with the tenant user ID, select the global flag for the customer view panel. Switching to user ID April, the value has been updated to Y and displays in red due to being a global setting. Override is not allowed once set to global. Back in order entry, April now has the customer view panel displaying. Emailing using Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, or SMTP, has been added. If you do not have a default email system installed on your computer, you can configure Visual to send email with an SMTP relay instead. For example, you can use SMTP relay to email information from Visual with Gmail or Thunderbird. To configure Visual to use the SMTP relay, use the email section of the Preference Maintenance. Preference Maintenance settings include server address, server port, username, and password. If the SMTP provider requires the use of a secured socket layer, the Use SSL preference can be set to Y. In order entry, I will email an order acknowledgement. Note, when you send an email, the following dialog is provided for you to compose and address the email. All areas of Visual where you create addresses will now include a Browse button for country codes. The ISO country codes will be available for selection. The Browse button includes the list along with the description or country name. Search functionality is available. When the description does not match, the 2-digit code will be blank. Manually type in a matching description will automatically fill the 2-digit code. In the address layout setup, the Browse has also been added. The exact match is also used for this option. The final 4 updates will be in financial reporting. We will begin with a value-added tax update. The enhancement is designed to improve reporting for intra-community or intra-Euro supplies, where a zero VAT can be applied between Euro participants. The update includes the addition of the type column. The selections include default VAT for the original settings and intra-Euro VAT for the new functionality. Selecting a default VAT example you can see the original setup fields. Selecting the intra-Euro VAT, you can see the new setup and the fields required for this setup. As an example, this PO is using an intra-Euro VAT code that will apply no taxes. Additionally, countries may track for reporting of what the VAT may have been and recoverable amounts. Using the document lifecycle for navigation, let's go review the payable invoice. The zero amount applied from the vendor and the intra-VAT tracking for reporting. Here is an example of the GL postings with converted values. Notice the credit entry versus a payable entry. The VAT tax report will reflect these updates. The IBN fields have been increased to 40 characters for both the customer banks and the vendor banks. The Recalculate Standard Cost utility in costing tools will now include an export to Excel. Keep in mind that this utility is designed to update part maintenance costs no matter which costing method is being used. If you do not select any rows and did an export to Excel, all the rows would be exported to Excel. For this example, I will show cost categories. Filter purchase parts only and use the latest receipt. I have selected a range and recalculated selected parts. I have also made some manual updates to the cost. Exporting to Excel allows me to review these changes without saving them to the database. When saving Recalculate Standard Costs, you are updating part maintenance costs directly. The option to print summary reports for common or commercial work in process has been added to the project databases. These are work orders not linked to any projects. Thank you for watching this video on version 9, Other Core Business Enhancements.